Pizza! Pizza! Pizza!
Gentlemen and gentlemen of Lionhearts, boys and men, gentlemen and gentlemen of Lionhearts, I have a confession to make. A lot of people have been wondering, where are all these players coming from? There's been some rumors that old man Nathandir must have paid for ads. This is something totally out of the ordinary, out of the blue. I would like to confess that this is the result of the update. No ads were paid for. None. All of this is a result of the better analytics and Roblox rewarding us for the things we're doing. What are they rewarding us for? I'm going to show you exactly what they're rewarding us for. When you join the game, you're going to notice a prompt come up on your screen that says invite players. And I'm happy to show that to you right now, what that looks like. Okay? Check this out. See this prompt? When you do this and you invite players, Roblox tells not just those players to play the game, it rewards the games that do this massively, which is why we spam it and annoy the hell out of all of you, because when you go down and you press all these invites, it tells Roblox, okay, this game is really good at getting friends to play it. We want to reward this game. Okay? So not only are you going to get the massive gold in contribution from doing this, you are going to encourage people to play this game massively. And that's a really good thing. Because when people are encouraged to play the game, you get more recruits, which you've seen today. Now, why the sudden explosion? There's a few reasons. One, the algorithm's picking us up because of these invite changes. Two, we just released a big update. Three, when you make the game free, after it being paid access, Roblox thinks it's a new game. It treats it like it's a new game, even though it's not. So it doesn't stay that way the longer you keep it free. It just means we're going through a initial spike and boom from Roblox interpreting our data. Now, we won't know how long this is going to hold for a couple weeks, but it's a very good sign that our initial data is coming back pretty positive, and it's showing that this game is worth playing. Roblox rewards games on the algorithm that have good metrics for retention and engagement. So the update hasn't been up for 7 days. The most important metric is game day 7 retention. Okay? So if you want this to continue, the best thing you can do is when that update thing comes up, every single time, spam every single person on the list. Every single time. When they come in, you're going to get gold. You get more gold if they're a new player. And it's going to massively promote the game. That's something we can do organically to get this game much larger. Now, the reason there's a few salty people that say we're running ads because their boycott didn't work, and the day after their boycott, the game has more players than it's had in years. That's why they're salty about that. And I'm going to address this. To the players that are upset, there were a couple HRE high command who I actually have spoken to a lot with. I consider Nitro a friend. I've been very friendly with him. I served under him when he was the Hospitaller GM on an alt account when I was doing an alt account experiment on Protoss Supremacy with a live stream event, which you guys will remember. And I'm friendly with Nitro. They both blatantly broke the rules. They harmed their faction. They were engaging in toxic community harming behavior by telling people not to play their game. I had HRE members and their allies messaging me, we want to play, they won't let us. I had people telling me that they were threatening the IUBIDs, that they would unally their IUBID allies if the IUBIDs didn't participate in the boycott. They didn't want to participate in the boycott, but the HRE HighCom, not the members, there's nothing wrong with the members of HRE. This was a few individuals in HighCom. When their leader was away, decided we're going to boycott the game, and we're going to tell even our allies we'll unally them. So, although I do think it's very unfortunate for HRE, the result is these high commands were sabotaging their faction and causing harm to the game. By the way, guys, I haven't had a single person tell me the raids are not fun that have participated in them. I have a lot of people that are concerned about the bread. I'm talking to them all the time. They don't know how the bread's going to work. And I'll admit, there is a chance the bread doesn't work out the way I plan. And my point to this is, we haven't actually tried it yet. Today is the first day any bread has been consumed from the game. So everything before today, all the yap, all the criticisms are kind of irrelevant when it comes to the bread system. Because none of it's been consumed. As for the boons are going to be balanced and reworked constantly like everything else in our game has been. So if you're concerned about the boons, air your concerns, write up a message about what your concerns are, put it in a ticket, or put it somewhere else where devs can see it, put it in suggestions, put it in a forum, make your voice heard, and they will be adjusted and they will be changed. I promise you the current boon values, almost none of them are going to be the same. Almost none of them. There's also been some other critiques which I think are very valid. One, if my faction doesn't have a side base like HRE or IUBIDs, we don't have a natural side base. Technically, nobody has a guaranteed side base because we got rid of the Chronicle system. So the players decide what the territory is, but there are factions with distinct advantages with what side bases are available. That's unfair because they produce less bread. Totally get it, which is why today I'm implementing a change, which is that the capitals of bases factions with no natural side bases will produce as much as if they had a side base. So HRE, IUBIDs, Zangids, and Seljuks will all produce extra bread out of their capitals until their side bases are added. HRE is getting a side base. We're repurposing old Karak for HRE. I don't know when that's going to be completed, but when it is, they'll get that, and their side base will then generate bread, and they won't generate extra bread at Cairo because they don't need to. Again, guys, every time I come in the game, I'm just making a habit of pressing these invites. Another valid concern. KOJ got completely screwed by this update. It was a total oversight, something I didn't account for with the garrison rebalancing. I didn't oversee it well enough. And I think KOJ losing one of their cores when they already only had a handful of garrisons is totally unacceptable. And I'm working with Cosmic Caracalla right now to try to address those concerns. And we're going to be rebalancing Southern Levant, potentially adding new garrisons, potentially rebalancing the garrisons between the factions so it's a lot more fair. And all these concerns are totally valid and totally reasonable and things I would hear out. What's not reasonable is telling your members to play other games, to directly not play, that you'll be punished if you play, that will unally you if you play, for people who do want to play. That's not fair. It's not cool. It's toxic. It's harmful to the game, which we all know. And the people who are complaining are mostly HRE, and I understand because they lost. Sorry about that. They lost some high command, and that sucks. But I think if you review the rules, I think it's pretty obvious that they were breaking the rules. I think it's pretty obvious that this was needed. And although it is unfortunate, I mean, I feel sorry that they decided to do this instead of talking to me. I mean, Hyman and Nitro, Himanoob and Nitro, however you say his name, they DM me once a week complaining about the game mechanics, and I've replied. I'd say I reply at least 50% of the time, which is good for me. So they know they could talk to me, and a lot of times when something was unfair, I would address it. I was an HRE. I was fighting for Somalia a month ago on stream. I don't have some bias against HRE. However, I do have a bias against people who are trying to kill the game. I do have a bias against people who want to sabotage the game because they're upset. Instead of trying to find solutions, we had people, emissaries, that contacted every single faction leader trying to figure out, okay, what's a pain point for your faction? Like, what's a pain point for your faction? How can we fix this? And this update was basically specifically addressed to fix core issues with the game. All right, what's a core issue with the game prior to this update? Region battles are the core of the game, and they're time-gated. Meaning for 90% of the time, you can't attend the core loop of the game. That's a massive issue. Fixed. Raids can happen whenever. You just saw a raid, okay? If you want to get on, there's a high chance that your HRs can launch a raid or there'll be a raid going on at some point. Totally different and way better game design. Bread is the reason that Bread is now the backing of lives is because I wanted to tie raids into the region battles. I wanted raids to be meaningful, right? I wanted them to feel like when you raid, you're actually doing something for your faction. You're getting bread for yourself. You're taking bread away. It's not so consequential that you feel like you miss one. You're really screwed. Like the most bread that's been taken out so far is like, what, 30? I mean, that's not insignificant, but again, it's something you can recover. You can go back and raid, and it's an extremely fun loop. As for the faction choosing menu, I have some things to clarify. One, vassals do show up on the faction choosing menu. If they don't, it's a bug which will be fixed. The only people that don't show up on the faction menu ever are people who do not currently own their capitals, which means you just lost a war, you're conquered, or you're not conquered yet, you're not vassalized yet. Okay? When you get vassalized, you can still recruit, you can still get recruits. But when you don't own your capital, we can't send your recruits to your capital. That doesn't make any sense. So yes, that is a punishment for losing a war. It lasts a few days. It is unfortunate, but it's not that big of a concern. Second, how does it actually sort? Well, basically, the menu sorts based on how many people are in your capital at that time. So if your capital has 50 people in it, is the most people in the game of all the capitals, when you go into the faction choosing menu, it will be the first one to show up. The second one will be the second, the third one, the third one. If it's in the middle of the night, nobody's at their capitals, it sorts every faction by power ranking. So the number one shows first, number two shows second. Okay, so why do we do it that way? We're, one, rewarding activity. So when you patrol your base, you know you have a chance to get recruits, and the more you patrol, the more recruits. Now, does that mean the big get bigger? A little bit, but the other thing is, you have to think about this from a new player's perspective. If we want new players to play the game and retain, we can't send them into empty bases. They will leave. Roblox is a social platform. This is one of the issues with Malta and Jerusalem onboardings. Every time we tried to onboard at Jerusalem or at Messina, pilgrims got ignored. It was too hard to explain how to join a faction. It was too difficult to communicate. Now, boom, they're in the faction. They go right in, right away. And even now, you can see in our main base, there's a ton of recruits and people just hanging out right now that are getting sent in. They already have the outfit. They've already chosen the faction. Like, here's a new novice right here. Right? Brand new player, fresh into the game, and they can talk. They can get individual quests, which we've planned to each one. Now, here's the thing. Just because there's a preference for the highest activity in the game, that doesn't mean you can't still get recruits. Because there's an arrow. You can choose between the factions just about what gets sorted first. And if this has a really big issue and people are not getting any recruits, the smaller factions, this is a system we can adjust. But right now, it's logical based on actual Roblox game mechanics, which is what we're trying to fix. We're trying to make this game work on Roblox. The Steam game is going to try to work on Steam with Steam players. We're trying to make this game work on Roblox with Roblox. Furthermore, I've been very open to criticism for these ideas. I took criticism for the assassination mechanic. It got heavily nerfed, heavily changed. It's completely different than when I first pitched it. And when we first sent the teaser, I should have sent more information, but unfortunately, information got leaked that would later be incorrect because the system wasn't done and polished yet. So a lot of people got upset about a system that basically was not even completed. And honestly, the boons right now are in such an early state, we're just trying to balance them. And I think it's reasonable to be upset if you feel like your boon is totally worse than somebody else's. But just understand that we're actively working on changing them and fixing them as we speak right now. As for the other complaints I've seen, I just want to kind of go through those. Hello, Sleepy. He's drinking a Bloxy Cola in my face. As for some other critiques and concerns, let me see where it's all up. I saw a bunch of concerns and critiques, and I typed up a big response. The Jerusalem change, I understand why KOJ is upset about that. We're trying to work on a solution. I've already mentioned that. The RB times have been picked to be beneficial to the most amount of players. Asian players do get a good time zone. The one tonight, there's going to be an RB in 6 hours. I'm sure a lot of people watching right now, that's not a good time zone for you. It is for Asian people, and it is for people in Australia. So every RB has been specifically picked to benefit a specific time zone, and it obviously gives a preference for European and American time zones for the most of them, because that's where most of our players are. So we're trying to get the most participation out of everybody. Waffle says, we were concerned about activity and how HRE boycotting would drop activity within IEBITS. Well, I think we can see today that that's not the case. So that's kind of a moot point because the game's more active than it's been in a very long time because of this update. Is no ways banning the leaders better for us? It makes the situation worse for the IEBITS. I understand. I wish that the HRE HighCom hadn't done this. But when somebody dupes, when somebody breaks the rules, when somebody's toxic, when they harm the community, they get banned. I can't not ban them because they're a leader. In fact, it's worse because they're a leader. However, we are willing to review the appeals specifically for the HRE leader. I'm under the impression that he wasn't even on that week, but he is the leader. He was aware of it, and so that's why he was punished. But we punish the people that were actively promoting the boycott. In no way do I want HRE to be dead faction. It's the most successful faction in the game the last 6 months at least. It'd be silly for me to want to kill the HRE faction. I did this specifically because I think HRE is being sabotaged by its high command, and it's very unfortunate. So any HRE members who are upset, I get it. I hope that if you go back through the stream, basically what I've said so far, you can understand that what I've said is address the concerns they had. And I was already addressing these things and saying them before the ban, and they continued to boycott. And the day before a region battle where HRE could have its territory sabotaged and have active harm done to the faction because they're refusing to play, I said this, we got to take care of this. We can't allow people to continue to sabotage their faction. Ollie, I think you should definitely review what I just said earlier about factions having access to recruits, because I think you're still not understanding. Well, Winter, that's their choice. And if they're not willing to listen to reason and they're not willing to listen to the compromises I've made, basically fixing all the major concerns that they've had, They can boycott, they can play another game. I'm not going to force them to play this game, but I'm also not going to have leaders that actively tell people not to play the game. We used to choose leaders. We used to replace leaders if they were inactive for a week. Okay, the new system's a lot different, and leaders have become entitled to their positions because the stability system was broken. Because every faction in the game right now has 99% stability or higher, which means dead, inactive factions are not punished. Their leaders are not punished for not doing anything, so they can sit and be inactive forever, which is not what this game is about. And it actually causes a massive issue because people aren't incentivized to recruit. They're not incentivized to do anything. So the stability system being fixed means that if you're inactive, your stability goes down. And essentially, if HRE was going to keep doing this, their leader would have been replaced anyway because their stability would tank. So getting ahead of this earlier is a help. And does it weaken HRE to get rid of the toxic high command that are sabotaging the faction? No. HRE made itself weak by deciding to do this. I have several HRE high comm in the studio Discord. I attempted to reach out. I attempted to reason, and it was denied. So, you know, that this is my game, and I feel like it's with the studio, we're entitled to punish people who are actively bringing harm to it. And I think the vast majority of people outside of HRE agree with this. And if you don't and you're an HRE, well, I get it. I get that you're upset. But again, it's a little bit irrelevant with all the points that I brought up. So I wish there could be an easier compromise and solution, but this seemed to be the most appropriate measure, that we get rid of the several high command that are actively trying to destroy their factions and destroy the game. And we address the problems that a lot of people in the boycott side had, so that you can't, first of all, if you're saying it's going to kill the game, it hasn't. Game's more active than it's been in a long time. Two, if you think the bread system's unfair because of the capital respawns versus people without side bases, I've already addressed that. That's being fixed tonight. And as far as the critiques about the boons and all the other things, those are being actively worked on and fixed. So yes, there's other critiques. Yes, there's other concerns, which will be addressed. This update was not an excuse for you to throw a pissy fit and to boycott the game and get upset instead of working with the development team. And none of the other factions chose to do that. So I mean, Waffle, you can have that opinion, but it's wrong. So I'm sorry you feel that way. I've got really nothing else to say about that. I feel like I've made my points. I don't think HRE wants the best for their players. I think they want the best for themselves. And I think they want the best for their high command, and I think they want to hold on to the illusion that they're in charge of the game because they've been the most powerful faction. And I'm in charge of the game. The studio's in charge of the game. And I've always made an effort not to be biased towards one faction or another. I'm always going to hold the line as equally as possible. I've joined many different factions. I've held off on updates for the Assassins for a very long time. When I started this genre, I purged over half of ACA's high command and almost destroyed the faction to make faction leaders. I said, my most competent high command and high ranks, I made them leaders in the genre so the genre would do better at the detriment of ACA. So I care much more about the game working than ACA succeeding. And I think that's just evident based on everything I've done. It's not circular at all, Waffle. I think that's just a I think that's just a total lie. I'll make my points very clearly and logically. 1, they boycotted because they had several issues with the game's updates. 2, I addressed and have been addressing those concerns. 3, they refuse to end the boycott or speak to me or have a conversation, a reasonable conversation. 4, they broke the rules. 5, after several days to the point where I felt like it was actually going to hurt HRE, I decided to take action and approve the ban that judiciary requested on these individuals. I don't get how that's circular. I think you need to look up the definition of what circular argument is. That's a very clear and concise argument. Where's my proof for any of these claims? You look in the SCA Discord, it's still in there. And the time that they advertised to play a different game, that message has been deleted. But the initial messages are in the SCA Discord. I am communicating about it right now. I'm giving you guys transparency and communicating. Dylan says, and this has been true for me, I've had several people message me this week apologizing, saying, hey, I thought this update was going to be shit, and I'm having a huge, good time. And although I don't agree with every aspect of it, I think it's very fun, and I'm sorry that I discredited it. Because actually, after I played it, I enjoyed it. And that's what Dylan's saying. A lot of people, loads of me, came to me and complained. I told them to settle down and actually play the game, and now they're loving the update. That's been the experience I've been having, too. This isn't a situation like the 24/7 road battles where we were trying something, it clearly wasn't working, and the community had a right to be upset about the burnout and all the issues with it, and we got rid of it. Should we have done that sooner? Sure. I mean, that's fair. Zachy, I think I misspoke when I said they refused to communicate. What I mean is they refused to end the boycott and come to a resolution. Because they were communicating, but they weren't willing to negotiate. They weren't willing to compromise. So I misspoke there. And they were, flaming me in my DMs, so they weren't being reasonable. Thank you for the $2 donation. I don't know what currency that is, but appreciate that. I think the current bread system needs to be rebalanced if the player count stays the same, because I balance the bread system around the existing player count. So we're going to need to buff the spawn times. Waffle, I just don't think that's true, man. I don't think that the devs have been trying to target HRE at all. HRE's getting a Cairo rework. They're getting a new base. The boon that was currently put in for HRE was suggested by a HRE Highcom. It wasn't able to be implemented the way that he wanted, which I think is why people are upset. But the suggestion to have damage negation for HRE was literally a suggestion from a Byzantine Highcom in the studio. Coming from somebody that's been in SCA for 4 years, it's clear the dev bias. So what you're saying is that you're biased and you don't have an accurate telling because from your perspective as a member of HRE, you guys have been being screwed. If that's the case, we've done a terrible job because you guys have been the top faction for like a year. So if we've really been out to get SCA all this time, then why are you guys dominating? If I really wanted to crush your faction and your alliance, I could do it in a second. I wouldn't need to go in a roundabout way. The game is better when SCA is active. The game is better when HRE is active. No incentive for me. From a business perspective, from a game design perspective, there's no incentive for me to go against HRE. When they mass dupe items, when they're toxic, when they do things that break the rules and they get punished, you can't then come at me in the studio for holding them to account. You have a victim complex if that's what you believe. When you break the rules, you get punished. I'm not going to not punish you for breaking the rules. I don't care what faction you're in or if you're in the studio. I was friends with Belides. Okay? It's just a silly, silly notion. Instead, after Death to the Dagger, players should be banned for a week. That's so funny. I have such a sick brain that's actually something I considered for a minute. I was like, what if we made assassinations like temporary ban somebody? Obviously a terrible idea, but it is funny. Will we keep the game free? If the game's revenue comes back above what it was during paid access after a period of several weeks, if we hold on to this concurrent amount, which may or may not happen, I don't know. I can't tell you. We've spiked up to this player count before and it didn't hold. It just depends how good the new onboarding is. Do we need to make adjustments? We need to keep improving. It's obviously a very good sign, but I can't promise anything about free or paid access in the future. I will say I'm going to make the best decision for the game's success and future at that time. Can I get your opinion on the new player experience after the changes? Sure. Great question from Radic7340. I mean, I think that honestly, we've had the onboarding backwards for a long time. At first, the first onboarding we tried was literally just spawning them in the middle of the road way back in the day with no context of what to do or where to go. That's terrible onboarding. Then we changed it. We had a little island map, not Malta, a very tiny island map where people would learn how to mine, and then they would get sent right to Messina. Actually, not a terrible onboarding. Had about 5% retention rate, which isn't great, and it's not terrible. But the most successful onboarding we had was when we made the Malta story, and that had a very successful retention rate, even up to 15%, which is really good. The issue is the day 7 and the week 1 retention was really bad because people wanted to play the story and keep going, but then it turned into a faction game. They were expecting a story game that turned into a faction game, and so when the quests ran out, they stopped playing. Also, when we tried just spawning people right into Messina, that didn't work. We tried spawning people right into Jerusalem. That didn't work. This is a faction game. It doesn't make any sense to have clans or to have pilgrims be a viable option because the game's about factions. We want to optimize the experience for factions. So when you join right away and you become a part of a faction, that's what makes the most sense. It doesn't make sense to wander around as a pilgrim doing nothing. There's no features for pilgrims. There's very few features for clans. All right, so prioritizing and shrinking into just the factions is going to help those experiences be better. It's going to help people recruit easier because now recruits just spawn into your base, which is, by the way, what happened in the old days. You would wait at Mosioff or your base for people to show up, and they were already interested in your group because they're coming to your base. And that's the way we're doing it now. We're cutting out a lot of red tape. We're cutting out a lot of bureaucratic BS. Like, they don't need to learn how to mine. Like, the first thing they do is not need to learn how to mine. They need to know how to participate in their faction because the way game design works is you need to get them into the loop, the gameplay loop. And the gameplay loop for the longest time has been attend a region battle at 2 a.m. with punishing PvP mechanics. And that sucks. And it's not even easy. That system's so complicated. You tried explaining to a new player how connections work or how alliances work, how to capture a flag. It's unviable. I mean, it's a total mess. And that's why it's had such a big issue because that's been the core loop of the game. And that can't be the core loop of a successful game. And the core loop now is just a lot simpler. You rank up in your faction, you participate in raids and battles and matchmaking, and you level up. I mean, it's pretty simple. Thank you for fly exploiting. I really appreciate it. Anyway, it's a super, super simple update to just throw them into the capitals. You know, I can fly too. The apple is giving me great powers. The game gets recommended. There's 0 things for new players to do. I mean, I disagree. I mean, matchmaking is something to do. They can participate in patrols. They can farm. They can mine. They can do all sorts of things in the game. They can go on raids. They can defend raids. They can attend trainings. Does it need to continue to be improved? Absolutely, but it's 10 times better than it was a week ago. Winter Waffle, the leaders were not banned. The Highcom of HRE were not banned for expressing their concerns. I have hundreds of DMs of people expressing their concerns to me. None of them were banned. People saying, hey, this update's going to suck. Hey, don't do this. Hey, I don't like this. Hey, change this. None of them were banned. None of them. They were banned for community harm. They were banned for sabotaging their faction, for encouraging a boycott of the game to the detriment of their own faction and the community. That's how they were banned. The concerns they brought up are being addressed. So not only did I not ban them for the concerns, I'm addressing the concerns. I'm banning them for the terrorist tactics they're trying to use to like, imagine if I listened to them. Okay, now anytime HRE's mad about an update, they can boycott. Oh, we want 3 bases or we're going to boycott. Oh, we want cast Damascus weapons for all of our members, even though we already have them because of duping and other issues. And if you don't do these things, we're going to boycott the game because it's unfair. It's like, that's just, we don't negotiate with terrorists. So, yeah, Winter Waffle, it's not an effective strategy. And anybody who tries to boycott the game to get what they want in the future will also be banned. If they're high ranks and leaders. Leaders have a responsibility to upkeep the community and uphold the community. It's not a privilege to be a leader. It's a responsibility. I'm sorry, it is a privilege, not a right, rather. It's a privilege to be a leader. Ow. It's a privilege to be a leader. And if you're not going to take that responsibility seriously and you're going to try to hard the game, we absolutely will ban you every single time. Yeah, Winter Waffle, I'm not going to play the Cold War tactics that I'm not going to update HRE. That's just going to make them more upset. We're ripping the Band-Aid off. These guys are getting banned. They both have a history of being toxic and having nefarious intentions and doing things and being banned in the past. So, no, we're not taking that route. And their boycott didn't work. I mean, try something that works next time. I can't add an option to add the player invite thing in settings because that's exactly why we have so many players on right now. And if we continue to spam the invites, we will continue to have massive amounts of players. No, I will not add gambling. Let's get this. Trying to get some daylight in here. I think it's pretty obvious. They thought the update was going to be bad. It's actually good. There are some concerns and some issues with it that are being handled. And now they have egg on their face. Thought the game would die. It's more active than it's been in a very long time. They thought the studio wouldn't listen. We've addressed all their concerns. So it's just kind of silly at this point. And that's all really I have to say about it. Tomato, I would add a religious element to the game if Roblox would let me. That's why I'm making Reforged. Oh, man. That's why I can't stream. I have to just stay in Calum. I can't host a raid. I'm not a high rank. I need to earn more contribution and dedicate more to my faction. Although I'm eligible for a promotion. Hello. Promote me, please. Eligible. Hello. I mean, if the boons are the main problem, then we're going to prioritize. Oh, right. You can't raid during an RB either. All right. Now we need to invite a very special guest. We all need to chant his name until he shows up. Dylan. Dylan, who was just in SCA. He's going to have to come in here and set the record straight. So I've been yapping. This game feels like a chore. I'm hoping that that is fixed by this rating update. Roblox, stop inserting nom noms, man. Oh, man. Dylan's not home. We can't. Hard grind for new players. I think the XP boosts in matchmaking help a lot. I like the idea of dungeons rewarding bread. That's a good idea. It's a really good idea. Well, that's it, guys. I hope this... Is there any other questions? Is this giving you guys some insight? Has this helped? No, it does not consume bread to TP to garrisons. Weapon durability drain is a bug fix. Weapons were always meant to lose durability from attacks. I don't know why they weren't. I fixed the bug. Now they're doing it properly. Obviously, it sucks because people are used to an old durability gain. We might increase the durability of weapons, but we're going to see how it goes. Right now, we have a weapon inflation issue where there's just way too many high-value weapons, and part of the reason for that is because the durability is way too high, and there was no way to drain the durability. If you don't block ever, your battle axe lasts forever. So trying to get rid of some of the weapon inflation and keep the weapon economy going. Bandit Farm's respawn rate probably needs to be fixed, yeah. I think it's a little bit much. You can maintain your weapons by farming. I mean, by mining. By getting ingots. I don't think it's that hard. I think you just need the ingots. I mean, if it's like... If it's not worth it to repair versus make a new weapon, then repairing needs to be buffed, you know. So, balance. All right. Well, then. Takes a weekend for one cast ingot. It sounds like we need to fucking buff cast ingots. That's not that much time at all. I think cast ingots should be take 2 years to get one. Personally, you're not you're not asking the right person for that. Not a big fan of that. Cast weapons are meant to be celebrity items. They're meant to have like one person in a faction has one. Grinding bread isn't that hard. Good to hear. I don't see any more questions, really. Don't take your cast items to a raid. Bring a steel weapon instead if you're worried about the durability. Make the stockpile boss not regenerate. I don't really get. I don't know what that means. All right. I am exhausted. I think I'm going to end it there. And we're going to do this giveaway. The winner is 27. Sleepy the Sleepster. Sleepy the Sleepster, congrats. I don't know why resource withdrawing isn't working. You have to be in a conquest server. It might be broken. All right. Farewell. Oh, regenerate HP? What do you mean? Like, they should regenerate HP. I don't know why they wouldn't. Send me a... Winter Waffle, can you, like, DM me the exact critique there and so I can understand it and fix it? Anyway. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.